All right, really bad headlines for Montreal's public consultation office over the last few days. Egregious examples of spending in that office, and spending that has occurred over basically the last decade. Much of the coverage has come over the last president of the OCPM, and that's Dominique Ollivier, who is now the number 2 at City Hall in the Projet Montréal administration. And Dominique Ollivier joins us on the line. Madame Ollivier, welcome back to the program.
Hello. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Is it fair to say that you're trying to save your job right now?
No, not at all. If Elias, if I needed to save a job, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. What I believe is that when you have public fund, when you're managing public funds, and people ask you to be accountable for those public funds, you have to come forward, and this is what I did from the beginning.
Okay, and the reason I asked that question is because, normally we really have to try hard and chase politicians to come on when there's bad headlines. And I got to say, it seemed like your team was quite receptive and wanted you to come on. I saw you speaking on Radio-Canada last night as well. Yeah. So that's why I have to ask that. Usually people shy away from these types of stories. You're leaning right into it and talking about it. Why is that?
Because I believe we have to be accountable to Montrealers, and I understand why they are shocked by the reports that the Québécois Investigative Bureau has put forward. And I must say that for me, from the beginning, when they contacted me to talk about my presidency, I was always very open to say what I did. Like I said, we followed rules. We had an organization that was independent from the city that had different rules. Now, in retrospect, is everything explainable? I believe so.
Okay.
And I did adamantly at the GIE. I spent 45 minutes with them, and what they did is take out like 3 quotes out of what I said. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's important that I take every chance I have to speak directly to Montrealers.
Okay, so let's
be accountable for my actions.
Let's get into that. So you were president of the OCPM September 15, 2014 till September 9, 2021. So 7 years, right?
Yes.
That's you're the head of that body. Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about the restaurant expenses. $17,000 in a span of 4 years. That's what came out in one of the pieces.
That's what came out, but I believe it's not true. I believe it's more like in the 7-year span. Okay. But I'll let them. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they know how to count. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I wanted to say is that these expenses, which I explained, occurred. First of all, in my work contract, there was a $4,000 a year representation expense, which was voted by unanimity of the municipal council. So what I want to say is that at that time, in 2014, it was judged possible and justifiable that you could have expenses up to $4,000 a year.
And does that include a $350 oyster dinner in Paris?
That's the one I said. Like I said, all our financial statements have been audited. Mm-hmm. This one, and that's the only one. If you look, they can go back, and it's always that one that they bring back. Mm-hmm. They don't bring 10 different examples. That was one example. And then at some point, everybody must say, okay, this was maybe not my best move, and that's a bit like I feel right now. If I had to redo it today, of course not. I wouldn't do it that way.
Let me tell you here's what my real issue is on all this, right? Go. Because I think if you're you're City of Montreal and you've got this independent body, the OCPM, that does consultations, and sometimes you got to interact with other parts of the world to find best practices. Mm-hmm. Totally makes sense, right? And so if you're the City of Montreal and you have a vision, Montreal, we want to be a wealthy, big league city. We want people to say London, Milan, Montreal, New York City, same sentence. Having an OCPM that travels the word and does these things totally makes sense to me. Here's where I find there's a disconnect. The Projet Montréal administration I don't think they're focused on wealth. In fact, I think they're focused on other things that make the city poorer. They tell people you can't have Publisac. How dare you clip your coupons in the Publisac? We're getting rid of that. We don't want to help you save money. And then the same people are overseeing a body that spends thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on food and restaurants. Okay. I find a huge disconnect between, if the oyster dinner, if you're a city and like, we're going to make this city so wealthy, we're going to have those oyster dinners. And guess what, Montreal, each and every one of you, we want to make you wealthy and prosperous. Yeah. But that's not the messaging from this city, right?
Elias, I think that the message is wrong at this point. One of the things that we have to account for is exactly like you said, not about the wealthy part, but just about the fact that we have an independent body that has been able to take participation out of, being participation of expert citizens to being a very broad participation and being able to address subjects like racism and do it in a serene manner, which is not easy in our city, basically. So for that, we needed, as the Office de Consultation Publique, they needed to have the best practices and to build on the best practices. And for me, this was attained. Now, as at some point myself, and I really want to stress the fact that this is pre-pandemic. We're in another era. When I took the office in 2014, the presidency of the office in 2014, nobody's talking about numeric participation.
Okay, hold on a second, and respectfully, I get it, right?
Yeah.
But we weren't doing meetings over Zoom before the pandemic. I get that, right? But so the hits keep coming, and I know you're no longer president. So let's look at the recent stuff. So let's not throw. Let's look at the last 2 years with the spending, okay? So here's what's reported this morning, that the current president of the OCPM spends $900 on Apple AirPods Max. They needed to buy headphones for themselves. They don't go to the pharmacy and buy a $15 pair of headphones. They spend $900. Okay, new TV sets, 85 inches, 3 of them, $20,000. So all it seems like is the grift went from we're going to travel the world and spend taxpayer money, and now we're going to spend the same amount of money outfitting our offices with the most extravagant stuff. It doesn't seem like things have changed, actually.
As a Montreal has changed. Well, first of all, I would say that that under my presidency, we did a lot with the budgets we had. You're talking about traveling the world on taxpayers' money? No, because, like I said, between 2014 and 2020, I did maybe 20 different trips, international, only. And between 2017 and 2020, none were paid by the taxpayers' money. All of them were invitation because we were considered like the best in the world in the question of public participation. Now, as it comes for the budgetary choices that are being made right now, I think they're highly questionable. And I think that the current president has to come and explain our choices to Montrealers the same way I'm coming forward and explaining mine. I have no problem explaining mine. Like I said, I did a 45-minute interview with JE and Journal de Montréal. They kept the quotes that they wanted, and I think that people have to get the full picture to really understand what's happening.
So I just want to ask, let me get your take. So Isabelle Beaulieu is the current president. Last 2 years, 2022, 2023, $15,000 in Apple products, right?
I don't understand those.
Okay.
I have to say, no, I cannot say the contrary, and I understand that Montrealers are shocked. The only thing I'm saying is that I don't know the context, but when I look at it, just like every other Montrealer, I'm appalled, and I think she has to come and explain her choices.
Should the Projet Montréal administration be as focused on wealth and building wealth as the OCPM is focused on buying expensive things for their lifestyles?
I think that we are creating wealth and well-being for all the citizens. That's what we want to do. We want to have a more livable city. We want to make sure that people have a say in what they have, what's happening in their life. We want to build a resilient city. We have good values. We want to make sure that everybody has a roof over their heads. And I think if you're honest, this is what we're doing. And we are also helping the small businesses. I mean, if you look at the choices that our administration has made, an example for the taxes for the small merchants or for the commercial arteries, I think we were very responsible in that. And now, the Office de Consultation Publique de Montréal is an independent body. It was created 20 years ago on certain rules.
Independent, but the oversight, the budget, $3 million a year, there's oversight there. And to see it, now it's a decade. It's a decade where it doesn't seem to be much oversight. I think that's why taxpayers are asking questions this morning. Madame Ollivier, we have to leave it there, unfortunately.
But it's a pleasure to still talk to you.
Absolutely. And thank you for coming on and accepting our invitation. That's Dominique Ollivier is chair of the executive committee, city councillor. She was president of the OCPM from September of 2014 to September of 2021.